A tiny,
What are
shivering
you?
alien girl wandered
You are
alone through the
chosen.
desert ruins of her
Trust
planet.
is everything.
Her skin shimmered faintly,
Promise, I'll
the
keep
only
you
color
safe.
against the endless gray sands. She looked no older than 7 by human standards, yet her eyes held an intelligence and sorrow that seemed centuries old. I, just a human traveler, was passing by in my rusted star cycle, scanning for resources and safe rest zones. The desert winds carried her cries faintly, almost like a whisper against the roaring dust. At first I thought she was a mirage. No human or alien child should survive these ruins alone. But then I saw her stumble and collapse, a small heap of fragile limbs against the cracked ground. Without thinking, I jumped off my vehicle and ran toward her, feeling my heart race. I knelt beside her, brushing sand from her tiny shoulders. Her breathing was shallow, almost imperceptible. Panic shot through me. Desert storms could strip life in minutes. I lifted her gently, careful not to hurt her, and cradled her in my arms. Her warmth was surprising. Even through her thin clothing, I felt it radiate against my chest. And as I held her, something unusual happened. The air around us seemed to shift. The wind softened. The ruins, usually silent and foreboding, felt almost alive. She stirred, eyelids fluttering like delicate wings, and then she fell fully asleep, her head resting against my lap. For a moment I froze. Holding a child, alien or human, is a heavy responsibility. But there was a strange serenity in the way her tiny fingers curled around my coat. I looked out across the desert, the horizon stretching endlessly. Normally, this planet was hostile, barren, and merciless. Yet in that small moment, everything seemed to pause. Nothing moved but us. I could feel her heartbeat through my palms, steady yet fragile. Then it happened. Her skin began to glow softly, an ethereal silver light that pulsed with her breathing. It wasn't bright, not like a sun, but subtle like moonlight reflecting off calm water. And the effect wasn't limited to her alone. My old star cycle, parked nearby, flickered as if powered by some unseen force. Even the desert itself seemed to hold its breath. I swallowed hard. What are you?" I whispered, mostly to myself. She didn't answer, just slept peacefully, but I could sense her awareness, like she was listening, understanding, maybe even choosing me. Minutes passed. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the dunes. I was afraid nightfall would bring predators. I wrapped her more securely in my jacket and rose, holding her close. Somehow I knew she could survive these harsh lands better than I could, but the choice to protect her was mine, and mine alone. As I walked toward shelter, I heard a faint, melodic whisper. Not in any human language I knew, and yet every syllable resonated inside me. The words were strange, almost musical, but the meaning was clear. You are chosen. Trust is everything. My mind raced. Chosen? By what? By whom? And yet, looking down at her sleeping form, I felt the weight of that statement settle in my chest. This was no ordinary child. She was something else, something powerful. Something that could, no, would, change the course of events if given the chance. We found refuge in an abandoned outpost. Rusted metal walls, broken machinery, and sand-filled floors. It wasn't much, but it was safe from predators and the night chill. I set her down gently on a makeshift cot, wrapping her in layers of my jacket. She didn't wake, but her glow intensified slightly, bathing the room in silver light. Curiosity gnawed at me. I had traveled across countless star systems, seen things humans would call miracles or monsters, but I had never encountered anything like this. Every instinct told me, protect her, stay close, and learn. I checked the outpost for supplies, water, rations, and a few basic medical tools. Everything was crude, but it would do. I returned to her side. She stirred, eyes opening slowly. They were vast, luminous, and entirely alien, yet I felt an immediate connection. She stared at me, and I could swear she was seeing everything about me, the past, the fears, the choices I had made to survive. "You're safe," I said softly. She tilted her head, her gaze piercing yet unthreatening. A small smile formed on her lips, a smile that carried the weight of hope. And in that smile I realized something. This child, this fragile little being, was more than she appeared. She carried something the galaxy had forgotten. Days passed. We traveled together through the desert ruins, moving cautiously from one shelter to another. Each night she would fall asleep on my lap, and each time the glow returned, spreading warmth and calm across the barren lands. Small things began to change. The desert animals became less aggressive, hidden dangers revealed themselves early, and even my own strength seemed enhanced by her presence. I began to understand. This child wasn't just surviving. She was altering the world around her, not violently, but subtly, like a ripple that spreads across a pond. And I was part of that ripple now. Then came the moment I could not ignore. As she slept, her glow intensified and enveloped me completely. Memories, emotions, and visions flowed through me, alien worlds, lost civilizations, wars averted, alliances formed. It was overwhelming, yet exhilarating. I understood her purpose. She was meant to connect, to heal, to unify, and somehow she had chosen me as her first anchor. When she awoke, I felt different, stronger, wiser, yet humbled. She reached out, tiny hand touching my face. I held her gaze, knowing without words that our journey had only begun. The galaxy in all its vastness had shifted slightly, imperceptibly, but permanently because of a fragile child trusting a human traveler. And in that desert ruin, under the fading light of a dying sun, I understood a truth that would follow me for the rest of my life. Sometimes, the smallest beings carry the heaviest destinies, and sometimes the right human at the right moment can change everything. She fell asleep again on my lap that night, peaceful and glowing. And I swore to myself, I would protect her, guide her, and walk with her until the galaxy itself remembered what hope felt like. Because the tiny alien girl who collapsed in the desert wasn't just a child. She was the beginning of something extraordinary, and together we were unstoppable. I didn't hesitate. Her tiny frame was so fragile that even the gentlest motion could hurt her. Carefully, I scooped her up into my arms and settled her on my lap, wrapping her in my jacket to shield her from the harsh desert winds. Her body was trembling slightly, and I could feel her rapid, shallow breathing against me. For a moment, all I could do was simply hold her, afraid to do anything else. The desert around us was silent in a way that made my ears ache. Even the ever-present wind seemed to soften when she lay against me. It was as though the universe itself recognized the importance of this fragile life. I could feel a warmth radiating from her small body, not just heat, but something deeper, almost alive. It settled over me, a gentle pulse that made my own heart feel lighter and heavier at the same time. Minutes passed, then more, and she remained asleep. Her eyelids flickered occasionally, like tiny wings. I couldn't tell if she was dreaming, or if her mind was working in ways humans couldn't comprehend. And then I noticed it, a faint, silvery glow beginning to pulse from her skin. At first it was subtle, barely noticeable against the dim light of the dying sun. But slowly it intensified, spreading outward like moonlight over still water. I froze. What are you?" I whispered, my voice almost swallowed by the wind. But I already knew the answer. She wasn't just a child. She was something more, something ancient. Something that carried power, not violent, but alive in a way that could change everything. Her tiny hand twitched and pressed lightly against my chest. The glow from her skin seemed to respond, brightening where her touch landed. I could feel an energy coursing through me, strange and foreign, yet oddly comforting. The desert that had been unforgiving just moments ago now felt calm. Even the broken machines nearby flickered and hummed, as if awakened by her presence. I tried to move slightly, adjusting my hold, careful not to wake her. But it was impossible to ignore the sense of purpose radiating from her even in sleep. She wasn't just surviving. She was observing, understanding, and perhaps even choosing me for something I could not yet grasp. "Safe," I murmured, more to reassure myself than her. "You're safe." Her lips curved slightly in a small, almost imperceptible smile. And then the whisper came, soft, melodic, and utterly alien. It was not language I could understand, but it wasn't meaningless. Somehow every note carried a meaning that I could feel in my chest, a vibration that resonated deep in my bones. "You are chosen. Trust is everything." My mind reeled. Chosen by whom? For what? The questions pressed in from all sides, but I could not let myself panic. Instead, I focused on the girl in my lap. Her presence was grounding. Her trust in me, even unconscious, was something I couldn't take lightly. I glanced out at the ruins. The sun had dropped lower, bathing the landscape in crimson light. Shadows stretched long and strange across the desert floor. I could feel predators lurking, dangers waiting in the corners of this dead world. And yet, for some reason, I felt confident. Holding her, I knew I could face them all. Somehow, her presence gave me strength I didn't know I had. Hours passed as the sun disappeared behind jagged mountains. Stars began to glitter overhead. The wind picked up again, but her warmth and glow created a small bubble of calm around us. I watched her carefully, memorizing the delicate way her eyelids fluttered, the tiny rise and fall of her chest, the soft, almost musical breathing. She seemed so small, so vulnerable. And yet I sensed a quiet confidence, a hidden power beneath her fragile exterior. I wondered about her life before this. Who had she lost? Why was she alone? And what exactly was she capable of? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing: I would not leave her here. I would not let this child face the universe alone. She had chosen to trust me even without knowing me. That was enough. As night deepened, the glow from her skin became brighter. It wasn't harsh light. It was soft, soothing, and steady. It filled the space around us with a gentle silver radiance, and for the first time I understood why legends spoke of beings whose very presence could alter the world. This was no legend. She was real, and she was in my lap. I found myself talking to her quietly as if she could understand my words. I don't know what you are, but I promise I'll keep you safe. We'll get through this together. My voice shook slightly, betraying the gravity of my own fear and awe. Her hand twitched again, brushing lightly against my arm. And then I noticed a strange effect. The broken machines of the outpost nearby sparked to life, tiny lights blinking in sequence. A gust of wind shifted, revealing a hidden water source in the distance, a spring I hadn't noticed before. It was as though her presence was reshaping the world around us in small but profound ways. I leaned back against the cracked wall of the outpost, holding her tightly on my lap. The desert was vast and merciless, but inside this small bubble of warmth and light, it felt like hope itself had taken form. She was asleep, but I could feel her awareness, her power, and her will. And somehow I knew that this moment, this quiet, fragile, glowing moment, was only the beginning. Somewhere deep inside, I felt it stir. A connection that transcended worlds, species, and lifetimes. The galaxy itself had shifted slightly, imperceptibly, simply because a tiny alien girl had fallen asleep in the lap of a human traveler who had, by choice, decided to protect her. Hours turned to night, and still she slept. I traced her small hand with my fingers, marveling at the delicate strength it contained. This child, fragile as she appeared, carried the weight of destinies I couldn't yet comprehend. And in that silver glow, I finally understood the truth. The galaxy had already begun to change. And I, a human traveler who had once wandered alone, had become part of it. The night was still, but the air around us seemed alive. Every time I shifted, her tiny hand twitched in response, brushing lightly against my chest as if she could feel my thoughts, or perhaps sense my intentions. The glow from her skin had grown more vibrant since the sun set, now illuminating the outpost like a soft silver lantern in the endless desert darkness. I leaned back, holding her carefully on my lap, and listened. The faint whisper I had heard before returned, this time stronger, more urgent. It wasn't words exactly, not in any language I could understand, but it carried meaning. Every note vibrated in my chest, resonating with a strange familiarity I couldn't explain. Somehow it felt like she was speaking directly to me. "You're different," I whispered aloud, unsure if she could even hear me. "You're not just a child, you're something else." Her eyelids fluttered, and I felt the pulse of energy intensify. The glow around her seemed to respond to my words, brightening and then dimming like a heartbeat. I noticed the sand beneath the outpost floor shifting subtly, as if alive. Tiny ripples ran across the cracked tiles, moving in patterns that made no sense, except to her perhaps. Then the wind shifted. Normally, the desert winds were sharp, harsh, and unpredictable, but this time they softened, curling around us in a protective swirl. Dust that had always choked the ruins now danced lightly in the glow, almost playfully. I swallowed hard. Something extraordinary was happening, and I was at the center of it. Curiosity pushed me forward, despite the fear crawling up my spine. I gently adjusted her position, making sure she was comfortable, and whispered again, "What are you doing to the world?" Her small fingers twitched against my arm, and the glow expanded, flowing outward in waves that reached the walls and ceiling of the outpost. I could feel it now, not just see it. A warmth spread through my chest and arms, deep and pulsing, as if her very presence was rewriting the rules of physics. Machines hummed to life. A small control panel flickered, showing symbols I didn't recognize but somehow understood. It was like she was speaking in code, a language only the universe could understand. I realized then that this wasn't just power, it was connection. She wasn't trying to hurt, to control, or even to influence directly. She was communicating with everything around her. The outpost, the desert, even the distant horizon, it all seemed to respond. My human mind struggled to grasp the scale of it, and then I saw movement beyond the outpost. Shadows shifted unnaturally, forming shapes that were not quite animals, not quite machines. Predators that would have attacked us in a normal desert night froze mid-step, as if they too were captivated by her presence. Their instincts told them to strike, but something stronger held them in place. I could feel the desert itself protecting us. I breathed slowly, trying to steady my racing heart. The girl's eyes opened slightly, revealing irises that shimmered like twin galaxies. She looked directly at me, and I felt an unspoken message. Do not fear me. I chose you. Her whisper became a chorus of melodies, flowing together like a river of sound. The energy around her pulsed in rhythm with her breathing, and suddenly the entire outpost floor lifted slightly. It wasn't levitation in the way humans understood it, but the feeling was unmistakable. Gravity itself bent subtly around her. I stumbled slightly, my hands gripping the edge of the cot to keep my balance. I could no longer deny it. She wasn't just a survivor, a lost child in the desert. She was a catalyst, a being capable of reshaping the world, or perhaps even the galaxy itself. And somehow she had chosen me to witness it, to protect it, to become part of it. Time blurred, minutes stretched into hours. The desert night carried the soft hum of her presence. I stayed still, holding her carefully on my lap, feeling the pulsing waves of light and energy ripple outward. It was exhausting, exhilarating, terrifying, and beautiful, all at once. At one point, I realized that I could feel things I shouldn't be able to. The shifting of sand dunes in the distance, the faint glow of distant stars, even the heartbeat of some distant creature. Everything was magnified through her presence. I was connected to the universe in a way humans were never meant to be, and it was overwhelming. And yet she remained a child, small, vulnerable, trusting. She snuggled closer into my lap, and for a moment the galaxy felt calm. Safe, like the pulse of her glow had extended to me, giving me courage, patience, and clarity. I whispered again, what are you? Her eyes met mine, wide and unafraid. And though she did not speak in words, I could feel the answer in my chest. I am the beginning of change. And you are part of it. I realized then that our journey together had only begun. The galaxy beyond the desert was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. Wars, factions, and ancient powers still roamed unchecked. And yet in that small, glowing child on my lap, I saw a future. A future where hope could exist, where light could pierce the darkness, where one tiny life could alter the course of countless worlds. I held her closer, letting the warmth flow into me, feeling the pulse of energy sync with my heartbeat. Outside, the desert remained dark and endless, but inside our small sanctuary, the universe had shifted. One tiny alien girl had fallen asleep on a human's lap, and the galaxy would never be the same. And in that night, under the soft silver glow of her presence, I understood something profound. Sometimes, the smallest beings carry the heaviest destinies. Sometimes, the right human at the right moment can become part of something far greater than themselves. And sometimes, change begins with trust. She slept again, her glow softening but still vibrant. And I stayed with her, the human who had been chosen, not by power, not by title, but by something far older and wiser than any empire. Fate itself, the desert whispered around us. Stars shone above, and I knew without doubt that the galaxy would remember this night. Didn't realize how quiet the desert had become until a sound returned. A deep, distant hum, low enough to feel in my bones, rolled across the horizon. I stiffened. That sound didn't belong to wind, predators, or storms. It belonged to ships. The girl stirred on my lap, her glow shifting from soft silver to something sharper, more focused. Her breathing changed, slower, steadier, like she was no longer just sleeping, but listening. "Hey," I whispered, instinctively tightening my grip around her. "What's coming?" She didn't answer with words. Instead, the glow spread. It flowed out of her like a tide, washing over the outpost walls, the desert floor, the broken machines. Symbols ignited across the rusted panels, ancient glyphs, older than any language I knew. The outpost, long dead, woke up. Lights flickered on. Power surged. I stared, stunned. That's impossible. Nothing on this planet should still work. And yet it did. The hum in the distance grew louder. Through a cracked viewport, I saw it, a patrol cruiser descending from the clouds, its angular hull marked with the insignia of the Dominion. Slavers, scavengers. The kind of people who didn't ask questions, only how much something was worth. My blood ran cold if they saw her. No, I didn't even let myself finish that thought. I shifted, rising carefully with the girl still in my arms. She was awake now, her eyes open fully, glowing faintly like stars seen through mist. She looked calm, not scared. That terrified me more than panic would have. "They can't take you," I muttered. "I won't let them." Her small hand pressed against my chest. And suddenly I understood. Not in words, in sensation. She wasn't hiding. She was deciding. The glow intensified, no longer soft but radiant. It poured out through the outpost like a signal flare, racing across the desert in waves I could feel passing through me. The cruiser in the sky faltered, Its engines stuttered. Then, silence. The ship froze midair, hovering unnaturally, lights flickering as if caught in a storm no one else could see. I watched, breath held, as its hull began to vibrate, panels rattling like they were being shaken by invisible hands. The girl leaned forward slightly in my arms. The ship's comms burst to life, broadcasting on every frequency at once. Static, then screaming, then nothing. The cruiser drifted sideways and sank gently into the sand, unharmed but powerless. I stared at the scene, heart pounding. You did that? She tilted her head, studying the fallen ship with mild curiosity, like a child watching an insect stop moving. Not cruel, not angry, just inevitable. That was when I realized something important. She wasn't attacking, she was correcting. The desert reacted next. Sand shifted, dunes realigning themselves into smooth, deliberate patterns, cracks in the ground sealed. Dead machinery half buried for centuries powered on, antennas unfolding like metal flowers. Signals launched into the void. I felt them go, far beyond this planet, far beyond this system. A chill ran down my spine. You just told the galaxy you're here, I whispered. She looked at me then, really looked at me. And for the first time I felt her emotions clearly, loneliness, loss, and beneath it all. Resolve, she wasn't calling for help. She was announcing survival. The Dominion ship's hatch finally opened. A few figures stumbled out, weapons raised, then froze the moment they saw us. Not because of fear, because they couldn't move. The air around them shimmered, locking them in place like insects trapped in amber. Their eyes were wide, reflecting the girl's glow. One of them tried to speak. No sound came out. I stepped forward instinctively, placing myself between them and her. My hands shook, but my fear was gone because I knew something now. They weren't the threat. She was, and she wasn't dangerous because she wanted to be. She was dangerous because the universe listened to her. The girl rested her head against my chest again, the glow dimming slightly, controlled now. The desert calmed. The outpost settled into a quiet, humming equilibrium. In the sky, stars shifted subtly, aligning in patterns that made my vision ache. Somewhere far away, empires noticed alarms going off. Ancient systems reactivating. Impossible energy signatures blooming where nothing should exist. I knew it without seeing it. This moment, this exact moment, had just entered history, not as a battle, not as a war, but as a beginning. I looked down at the small alien girl in my arms, her warmth steady, real. What happens now? I asked quietly. She didn't answer directly, but I felt it. Now we move. I exhaled slowly, the weight of that truth settling onto my shoulders. A human traveler, an orphaned alien child. And a galaxy that had just been reminded of something it had forgotten. Power doesn't always arrive with fleets. Sometimes. It arrives asleep on a human's lap. The stars moved wrong. I noticed it first because I'd spent half my life navigating by them. Trade routes, escape vectors, dead systems. You learn the sky the way sailors once learned oceans. And the sky above us had shifted, not dramatically. Not visibly unless you knew what you were looking for, but alignments had changed. Faint halos appeared around distant stars. Old constellations bent into unfamiliar shapes. Someone, or something, had noticed her signal. The girl slept again, curled against my chest, her glow subdued now, like an ember beneath ash. The desert was calm, almost reverent, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. I didn't like it. Quiet like this never lasted. I was reinforcing the outpost's entrance when the first ripple hit. Not sound, not light, pressure. It rolled through the air like a gravitational wave, making my teeth ache and my vision blur for half a second. The girl stirred immediately, eyes snapping open. Her glow flared, controlled, sharp. She was alert. "So they felt you," I murmured. Didn't take long. The horizon split. Space itself folded inward, peeling open like fabric under too much strain. A shape emerged, vast, smooth, wrong in ways my brain struggled to process. Not a ship, a vessel, ancient design, no weapons visible, no thrusters. It simply existed, hovering above the desert like it had always belonged there. My comm unit screamed to life. Every frequency, every language, one message. The custodian has awakened. My heart slammed into my ribs. Custodian. The girl shifted in my arms, gaze fixed on the vessel. I felt her emotions surge, recognition, caution, and something like disappointment. She knew them. The vessel descended slowly, stopping far enough away to not threaten, but close enough to make a point. A beam of soft blue light touched the sand, and a figure stepped out. Tall, slender, not quite solid, an elder. I recognized the species instantly, archivists, supposedly extinct, guardians of pre-imperial history. Beings who didn't rule but remembered. The elder's many eyes focused on the girl, then unexpectedly on me. "You are not supposed to be here," it said, its voice layered with harmonics that made the air vibrate. "Human." I didn't flinch, didn't step back. "She's with me," I replied. The elder paused. That pause carried weight. "You do not understand what she is." I tightened my grip slightly, more instinct than threat. "Then explain." The elder turned its gaze fully to the girl, lowering its head in something that might have been reverence. "She is a custodian seed," it said. "The last known fragment of a galactic failsafe." My breath caught. Failsafe for what? "For us." The words hit harder than any weapon. The elder continued, voice steady but heavy. "When the galaxy fractures beyond repair, when empires collapse into entropy, custodians awaken, not to conquer, not to rule, but to correct." I thought of the frozen Dominion ship, the desert healing itself, the signals launched into the void, correction. "You mean reset," I said quietly. The elder's eyes flicked back to me. "If necessary." The girl's glow spiked. The air tightened. The elder recoiled half a step, not in fear but respect. "She does not wish to reset," the elder said quickly. "Not yet. That is why she bonded with you." My stomach dropped. Bonded. Yes, the elder's voice softened. "Custodians do not act alone. They anchor themselves to a moral constant, a species capable of defiance, adaptation, compassion." It looked straight at me. "Humans." I laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You picked the wrong people." The elder tilted its head. "On the contrary, your species resists inevitability. You protect what you should abandon. You stand between monsters and children, even when logic says you shouldn't." My arms tightened around the girl. She pressed her forehead against my chest. I felt her choice settle into me like a brand. "You're saying she chose me," I said slowly, "because I'd stop her if she went too far." "Yes." The silence that followed was heavy, because that was worse than being chosen to serve. I'd been chosen to limit a god. More ripples hit the sky. This time not one many. Jump signatures bloomed across the upper atmosphere, military grade, diplomatic, religious. Everyone was coming. The elder's voice dropped. "They will try to claim her, weaponize her, worship her, or kill her." I nodded grimly. "Over my dead body." The girl looked up at me, eyes luminous, ancient, and young all at once. I felt her fear, not of them, of herself. "You won't lose control," I whispered. "I won't let you." Her glow steadied. The elder stepped back toward its vessel. "Then you must leave, now, before the galaxy decides for you." "Where do we go?" I asked. The elder smiled, a slow, knowing expression. "Somewhere even empires fear to follow." Coordinates flashed into my mind, not on any star map I'd ever seen. A place erased from history. I looked down at the girl. She nodded. Decision made. I turned back to the elder. "If they follow us." "They will," the elder said, "but they will hesitate." "Why?" "Because," it replied, watching the sky fill with arriving fleets, "a custodian with a human anchor is something the galaxy has never faced." The vessel vanished. Alarms echoed from orbit. And I ran, carrying a child who could end civilizations, trusting a human who refused to let her. The galaxy had come for her, but it would have to go through me first.